A few years ago, the world went through something that took us all by surprise, COVID and their lockdowns. For many of us, it sparked a new realization, and for me, it was a pivotal moment in my life, the moment I decided to take control of my own survival. I set out on a quest to learn how to grow my own food, having never grown anything before. So I left city life behind me and moved to the countryside, where I finally had the space to experiment and learn. That journey turned into something truly transformative, and now I'm completely obsessed. Every decision I make revolves around living more lightly on the earth and working with the land, not against it. My mental health has improved drastically, spending more time outdoors in nature and eating organic whole foods. It has changed everything. The deeper I get into this quest, the more I discover truly inspirational people walking a similar path. One of them is Sam Nana-sinkam, and like me, Sam also had a huge lifestyle change during COVID. He went from a top tech job at Google to starting a rewilding project on a plot of land he discovered, now known as Bloom Farm. Before this, he'd never grown anything either, but he set out to restore this degraded, overused farmland and bring it back to full health, all while inspiring as many people along the way as possible. What Sam has created at Bloom Farm isn't just a regenerative agriculture project. It's home to one of the most beautiful homestead retreats I've ever visited. I first went there during my US book tour. I needed a break from New York City, so we took a short trip to Pennsylvania, and it's exactly what I needed. When I arrived at Bloom Farm, I was blown away by the beauty. The old house surrounded by ancient trees, the flowers, the scents, it all felt so sacred. The land itself seemed so alive and vibrant. After spending lots of times in cities, you cherish hearing the sounds of the trees swaying in the wind, the bird song and the rivers flowing. And arriving at the farm felt like I just landed in paradise. Inside, the house is finished with incredible attention to detail, filled with old world charm in every corner. This was my home for the next 3 days, and the food there is next level, cooked by their in-house chef Chris, and there's even a sauna and ice bath to enjoy. While I was there, I had the honor of running a fermentation workshop for some local subscribers, people who came out from the Pennsylvania area to join in. But honestly, the weekend wasn't about me. I wanted to learn more about why Sam set out on this mission and how he's transforming the land and himself in the process.
Now, the first thing that I would want to show you guys is this tree.
Wow.
This is an ash tree.
An ash tree, yeah.
Yeah, so ash trees, much like chestnuts, are going through a major disease right now. Emerald ash borer that lays its eggs inside this tree and bores its way out. So my kids, your daughter, they're not going to grow up with ash trees anymore. This tree's probably 250 years old.
Wow.
And we actually vaccinate this tree every single year.
No way.
Yeah, we inject it that protect it. You know, this, you can't protect the whole ash forest, but if you find a distinct tree like this, try to keep it alive as much as possible. We have a blimp overlay of this farm from 1890. This tree's like 60 years old at that point. But you know, when you find one, you gotta treasure it, hold it tight.
It looks healthy though.
Looks
You're
healthy,
doing something,
it's
right?
leafing out good. Yeah.
And how much is being present in the garden, nurturing the crops, looking after trees, how much has that had an impact on family life? Like,
It makes me a much better father,
Really?
that's for sure.
Patience?
You know, patience, understanding, you know, some of these principles that I learn in the garden. Too much water isn't a good thing for a plant. You know, these are the same principles that I'm applying to raising kids. Too much water isn't a good thing. Can't plant two things too close together. They're gonna be competing for sunlight and soil. When in doubt, use your hands. Don't use an artificial tool if you can help it. Treat the soil and cover it like you would somebody that you love and care about. You know, these are the same type of things that I'm trying to take to my personal relationships, you know, how I lead my team, and obviously the type of dad I want to be too. So no better teacher than nature, I think.
Yeah, it's something I'm learning along the way as well.
You're doing a great
Well,
job.
maybe
of it,
when I
that's for
start
sure.
washing my daughter's hair with liquid seaweed fertilizer, maybe it's gone a bit too far.
There you go. So this stone barn,
Wow.
this is one of the oldest stone barns in Berks County, the county that we're farming in. This barn dates back to 1812. It hadn't been touched for about 100 years. Wow. So all the fencing you see, the interior, the top of the barn, which I'll show you in a moment, that's all net new over the past 2 years. What I wanted to show you is this mammoth English ivy that we have grown up here on the side. Every single person that comes tells me that I have to take it down.
Why is that? People
They're like,
say
it's
that about
gonna
ivies.
ruin the stone foundation and you gotta get it down. But you know, you come out here in the spring and you see the amount of birds that are relying on this ivy to raise their young, to build their nests.
Yeah.
You know, maybe one of the most diverse ecosystems that we have on the property here. So I really love it. And it's not coming down as long as I'm here.
This gets its real shelter, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look at this trunk.
Yeah.
This thing's like a tree trunk, man.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And in this building yesterday, I did a fermentation workshop here, and it was probably the most idyllic venue I've ever done something like that before. It's almost like being in the church.
Thank you.
It is beautiful what you've done inside. So should we show the guys?
Let's take a look.
Yeah. How you doing? Hello.
So you remember Alan and Eli? This is as I mentioned, this is a barn from the early 1800s that we have replaced floorboards in. Wow. We've repointed all the stone in the barn. Wow. This barn was made in a traditional style without any nails. So the amount of custom millwork required to be able to put a barn like this together, you know, the cliche of they don't make them like they used to. So we really try to treasure this, but deeply historic space that now we use for fermentation workshops, art residencies, any large format gatherings we're trying to do in here, and the vibrations in here are really special too.
It's cooler, it feels very welcoming. And what would it have been historically used for?
So this would have been a hay barn. So these two bays would have been where they pull their tractors up. These bays on each side would have been where they would have dumped all of their hay.
Well, it's a large space to store hay.
Large space to store hay.
There's a lot of hay, you know.
And I would assume that they were probably selling this hay to other farmers in the area too.
Makes sense. And we're actually above the chickens and the goats right now,
We're standing, right now we're standing above the old traditional mill under here, which we'll show you in a second.
I saw this on your Instagram and I was really confused, so please tell me more.
Alan, why don't you give a little bit of the demo on this thing?
A harmonograph, right? So
a what?
A harmonograph.
Wow.
There's a rotary pendulum, and then basically the two weights on either side, you can adjust the weight.
I see, yeah.
And they create, like, so we can take, like if we get this going like a certain direction, we can just pick whatever we want. And then we get this going like in an opposite direction, and we just let it go. And it basically will create things like this.
So no pattern would ever be the same?
There's no pattern, no.
That is incredible.
Yeah, we like it.
Seriously cool.
Before we go across the street, let me show you where the original mill on the property was. This is where they would have had their water mill. This road up here on the side of the mountain was the original Loboxville Road. So people would come up and down this and literally come right through the barn. Wow. They would have had their water mill in here. That would have gone into a combine right through that back window. You can see the original mill arch here.
Yes.
But we're in the process of renovating this space here now.
You've got these flagstones. What, they were already here, or have you found them locally?
We worked with a quarry that's local to get these flat flagstones, but this is all a new pointing. Wow. So this has been a big exercise for us. First and foremost, the principle that we work off of is storytelling on this farm. So this to me is a space where we can tell stories of what restoration in a beautiful way can look like. And if we're gonna be making a 100-year bet on this land, like we are, you know, we're planting chestnuts, they're gonna outlive us. We need to be making a 100-year bet on the facilities and the buildings that are here too. But yeah, really, really nice space. And really nice, most people don't notice that it's here, so.
Yeah, thank you for showing it.
Of course.
I have this thing in my mind at the minute. It's all started from growing food and being more in the natural cycles. And I know society throughout history has always been, there's been pros and cons, but if you think your mind back to the time when this was fully active and you know it was the heart of the community, do you think that the people that were living in this environment would have been healthier and happier than maybe modern society and the people that maybe in the cities nowadays?
I mean, no screens.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
yeah.
I think there's a lot of health in being, training your eyes to look at nature, training your eyes to be patient with a natural growth cycle versus the instant gratification that we get off of screens. And a lot more community engagement.
Yeah.
You know, people were outside a lot more. People needed to depend on each other a lot more.
Yeah.
Of course, there's this idea of self-sufficiency with homesteads, but the reality is one homestead doesn't make a town. You know, you need 4, 5, 6 homesteads, everybody specializing in their own thing and coming together as a community and trading those things with one another.
Yeah.
You know, I went up to, we have a tomato grower up the street. His name is Tim Stark. He grows maybe the best tomatoes in the United States. Every fancy restaurant in New York is getting it from him.
Wow.
And we went up there and bought some tomatoes that I'm sure you'll try on your trip. And he's like, your money's no good. What do you have to trade with me?
I love that
which is a
barter
really
and trade
cool,
society. That was
yeah, it's a really cool thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to answer your question, yeah, no doubt. Being able to be outside more, working with their hands, relying on community members, and finding value in being a good community citizen. You know, those are things that in cities you almost lose. You walk around New York City with your fists clenched, right? You think people are out to get you. There isn't a codependence for other human beings, which in a lot of ways sucks the soul out of a space, I think.
So true. So true.
I don't care how much
Yeah.
money you have, you can't buy a 200-year-old ash tree.
No.
You have to wait 200 years.
Yeah.
And I think for all of its benefits, technology has driven us further and further away from what reaping what you sow
Yeah.
means, right? It's, I want to have it immediately, and I don't want to wait, and I don't want to put the work or the time in to get it. I just want it right away. And if I have to pay more for it, I will. The currency that we are trading in here is heritage. And I don't think that there's any more heritage example than trees. You know, that's kind of really the labor of love we're trying to put into this ground.
It's funny that it's all stemmed from growing and being outside and connecting with nature, that this has sparked everything in my mind. But you've had even more of a transformative journey than me, I guess, in a sense, as you worked in a tech job, right?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, I grew up in sub-Saharan Africa. I didn't move to the States until I was in my early teens. We left the Democratic Republic of Congo during a coup d'etat, so under very violent circumstances. I went to a lycée français when I was younger, so moving to the United States not only was a push to learn a new language, but all of a sudden I went from being the most American kid in a sub-Saharan African town to being the most African kid in an American town. From then on, it was a sprint for the last 20 years for me to be as American as I could possibly be. One of those is, hey, go out, you get a good job in tech, try to make as much money as you can. That's like an ego fuel, and that it was a currency that I thought was valuable to me at a time. COVID hit, I started having children, and very quickly that value system flipped on its head for me. You know, all of a sudden I didn't really care about how much money I was making, how successful I was, because my kid would look at me and say, Mommy stays and Daddy leaves. That's what he would say to me.
Wow.
So that, my children, my wife, my family, being present for them, that was the driving force for me to make this career change.
Wow.
The other dynamic is, like everybody else during COVID, I had an existential amount of anxiety. Where am I gonna get my food from? I'm just ordering online, waiting in lines, and it felt so disconnected from the community element of food. Right? I wasn't even eating with anybody. I would just like scarf something down that I'd microwave. And so that anxiety for me, I had a really hard time channeling. As I said, I'm West African, so like therapy is not something that I grew up doing. The garden ended up being my therapy. The trauma release of working with my hands every single day, learning about myself, learning about being a father, all of that came from being in the garden, So it started with kids. Then it went to me managing my own mental health journey through plants. And now it's turned into, how did I take that story, this soil health to mental health, and turn it into something that everybody can experience. That's really what I've been pushing for the past 2 years.
That's absolutely beautiful. Really, really beautiful. I think what you're doing here is what I'm trying to be manifested in my own mind, and it's so great to hear like such a similar story to me in terms of switching it up in COVID, and the garden's taught me so much as well. And the best way, we share our videos and I hope it inspires, but there's nothing like bringing people to experience it, to get their hands in the soil, to enjoy the beauty of nature, especially if they've come from a city environment, or they're very disconnected like I was. And what you're doing here is just, this is as good as it gets.
Thank you. I mean, that means a lot coming from you. And I mean, you bring up a good point, because people come out here and they immediately want to ask me about growing things. On our team, we see growing food as like the 4th level problem that we're trying to solve. First and foremost, we need to build up our soil base. Can't grow anything if you don't have the soil to be able to hold those roots. Second, you got to build the environment that's conducive for growth. Bugs, birds, pollinators, flowers, all of that. And then third, as you know so well, you have to be able to tell this story. You have to be able to have people experience it and feel the power of regenerative agriculture for themselves. Otherwise, they're never going to be able to change their own heart and mind. Then you can start growing food at that point, right? And I think starting from that baseline for us was really important. You mentioned, the best time to plant a tree was yesterday. That's exactly what I thought. I came out here and I bought this place and I was like, I'm planting trees tomorrow. Nobody's gonna stop me doing that. And I had a really great farmer, mentor of mine who lives up the street, named Ted Stokes, and he was like, the first thing you need to do is absolutely nothing for 12 months. You need to watch this land for 12 months, see it how it moves, see the color drifts that come through, see what's growing, and understand what it is you're painting on before you start putting trees in the ground, and that's been a real revelation for me of like taking my step away from the 4th level problem of planting things and really focusing on soil health, an environment conducive to growth, and then how do I tell this story appropriately, which, then the fruit of this is growing things. That's the enjoyable part for me. The work is really getting those 3 problems down first, so you can come into a space and really feel that without anybody having to convince you of it. So we call this our kitchen garden. This is meant to mimic a traditional homestead garden. We're growing everything we possibly can in terms of food out of this space. What we essentially have are 12 10 by 5 beds, 2 10 by 20 beds here, and then 2 aisle beds that kind of sit in between. This was a huge design project for us, and really my first design project on this property. We are 25 feet exactly from a protected stream by the state. So what that essentially means is we can't even think about getting any closer to that stream from a building standpoint. And the idea that we were gonna bring any sort of machine in here is an absolute non-starter. So if I were at home, right, I would flatten this whole space out. That's what everybody, right, in ag school would tell you. Get a flat surface so you have the exact same sunlight going through. You're not dealing with multiple variables. We didn't have the ability to disturb earth in this project. So what you see is these bottom beds are 4 blocks high, and at the top they're 1 block high, because we're trying to mimic the grade that we're seeing outside of this garden bed. The other thing that I would say is we can't build any wider. So, I spent a lot of time in New York. If you can't build out, you build up. So these trellises are really important for us to be able to grow vine crops. We probably get 50% of our yield out of this garden off of those trellises,
growing space,
with about 5% of our soil being used on that. And then, the last thing that I would say, as I mentioned, this is a garden, but it is a storytelling vehicle first and foremost. So field trips, cocktail parties, fashion shows, all of this being a space that can act as a garden, but also acting as maybe the most natural school that you could probably think of.
And I like that there's so many medicinal plants, so many beautiful flowers amongst the veg too. It's sort of edimental, as I hear it being called. And people could go around and pick themselves a beautiful calming tea with the chamomile and the lemon balm that you see around, and the yarrows over there. I love this space. It's really beautiful. It is very much like a, you could have a wedding held here. Maybe. Walk down this aisle. That's probably somewhere I'd get married. Maybe even here, who knows? But
well, and I think one of the principles we really try to adhere to is high density, high diversity in our planting strategies. Just like the team I'm building, it's like this needs to have a bunch of different types of players in it, and we need to put them all in the same space and see how they interact. Is this how my Pennsylvania Dutch mother would want us to be planting? Absolutely not. You know, she likes clean lines,
Yeah.
but I think there's something beautiful about, it's almost like jazz music, you know, being able to incorporate all of these different things in freestyling versus having this perfect set out plan that you don't veer from. So you know better than anybody. You got to be able to think on your feet, right?
Definitely.
So the plan that I set out with almost certainly will not be the plan that I end with, which is why we're trying to stay as flexible as possible in this space.
Yeah, and you just learn as you go. Like when the first year I didn't have any flowers in my garden other than the veg that I grew, and then I realized, wow, everything's getting eaten.
Yeah.
So then I started incorporating things like the yarrow and calendula and nasturtium, and then suddenly I see color and I see pollinators coming in, but then also these plants have dual purposes, not just to eat but for medicinal properties, and that took me down that rabbit hole. And
Exactly.
I think they often will tell you to have, you know, equal space in between your plants, but what I've seen that things like growing with each other, and the soil is less exposed to the dry sunlight and the heat, so you know there's moisture in the soil when you plant things together. And
yeah, you don't see any clean lines in
no.
nature, you
It's
know.
so true.
If you're trying to mimic a natural environment, it almost feels naive to
Yes.
try to plant it in a straight line.
Yes.
You know, we have this huge deer fence around us, so most of the pests aren't getting in. Of course, we're never going to stop the birds from coming in, which is why, you know, we planted these hawthorn trees here, which is, you know, one of my favorite trees, steeped in lore,
Really?
and really acting as a sacrifice. These hawthorn berries end up getting eaten by the birds, so they don't eat the rest of my stuff, which is a nice little trade that
That's
we have.
really cool.
So this garden is really a dance between myself, Pete, and all of these plants. Not being afraid to pull things out if we need to, not being afraid to move things around, not being afraid to let things bolt. You know, one of the things we're most proud of is we planted this early bolting arugula this year because we're actually using the flower itself. Have you ever had
Nice.
arugula
Yes,
flower?
I
This
have,
is maybe
yeah.
like one of my favorite, you know, super distinct taste that there's a lot of people growing arugula, but as you said, some of these flowers are dual purpose in a lot of ways.
Not only that, you know, being a former chef, having a punnet of those coming into the kitchen would be like the ultimate garnish. And actually it's a high value crop, dealing with the flowers of plants and, you know, specialist herbs that they may not be able to get from their usual suppliers.
Yeah.
These are things that chefs love as well, and I love to garnish with flowers whenever I can.
Of course.
And when you have a garden, they're just there. Sage flowers are in my garden right now are just, you know, popping. They're beautiful.
Yeah. So everything that you're seeing is net new landscaping as of a few years ago. So this was all overgrown swampland at one point. As I mentioned, the first year was just me walking around trying to figure out, like, where are people gonna walk? Where is the bridge gonna go?
Yeah.
Where does the garden sit? How close to the wetland can we get? What material do we use for the flooring itself? You know, and that systems design is something that I really took to. You know, the idea that I could build a functional system myself,
Is that
not only on the planting side, but also user experience.
Yeah.
You know, that was really
Is the tech
important
work
thing.
helped you with that sort of
course,
design?
yeah,
Because I don't have that in me, I don't think. I'm gonna have to learn it fast when I get my hands on some land, but I really notice that everything seems to be in the right place here.
Thank you.
And this stream is beautiful. I could sit here for hours, I think, and listen to that.
Yeah, this is an unnamed stream, so we're working with the township to try to see if we can get naming rights on this thing. This is one of the highest headwaters that flows into the Schuylkill River, which is a major water source for a lot of Pennsylvania cities. So anything that we put in this stream will end up in a baby bottle or something. It's all the more reason for us to try to take care of it,
Yes.
put riparian buffers up, and really make sure that this stream stays as clean as it
Wow,
possibly can.
it looks breathtakingly clean right now. It looks good enough to drink.
At one point, this farm was a shagbark hickory farm. So this tree here, this is what they call a shagbark hickory. It's a shagbark hickory.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a really special tree that produces a very oily nut.
Yeah.
You can probably see some of the nut. This is a shagbark shell from
wow.
last year, yeah. This is food security to me.
Really?
You know, this is a tree that will drop about 100 pounds of nuts every single year. There's no inputs required. There's no watering required. This is just how you can feed a community.
Wow.
So it's a shame that, you know, on the 60 acres that we're farming here, at one point somebody made a fortune timbering all these trees and shifting it to corn soy, right? So our work has really been taking what was a cornfield,
Wow.
which I really see as an abusive relationship to the land in
Sure.
terms of how you manage it, and turning it back into a perennial staple crop orchard. We're focusing on chestnuts, but you know, a distant cousin to these trees. And as you walk around, you can kind of see how many of these shagbarks we have all over the property.
And what's the kind of taste and texture of these nuts? I've
It's a
never had
super oily nut.
What can you do with it in terms of cooking?
You can press it and make an oil out
Oh,
of
wow.
it. So at breakfast, maybe you saw a hickory oil on the table.
did, yes.
So that's coming off of these
Wow.
trees.
Wow. And does it take a vast amount, or can you make like a cup of oil? How much would it? Yeah, how many
You
nuts?
would probably need maybe like 10 gallons of nuts to make a considerable size of
Okay,
oil.
okay.
So you would still need a lot, but I would say each of these trees could maybe put out 15, 20 gallons a year.
Wow, okay,
So
that's a lot.
now it's gonna take 30 years for a tree to get to this size and
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
start producing of any sort of scale.
Yeah.
All of that to say though, you have the time to wait.
Yes.
It becomes an ever-bearing gift,
Yes, yeah,
right?
definitely.
Versus any other annual crop that you would have to put inputs in every single year, fertilize, glyphosate to kill the seed bank. This tree was also steeped in Native American lore. They would take the bark off and toast the bark and make a syrup out of it and a tea that is meant to heal stomach ailments. So the lore is that you can't peel the bark off the tree. You have to wait for the bark to fall before you can harvest it.
Wow.
But you know, this is also not only a food security space, but this is community agriculture. Because this Yoder family that built this homestead was not harvesting these nuts by themselves, right? Once a year, everybody in the community's coming out here and they're all harvesting these nuts together, right? Which kind of the power of community agriculture in a way that we don't think about anymore, right? It's almost a very insular type of
independence is
space, which
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
a shame.
people like you are bringing back more of the community aspect
I'm
of it.
trying.
Which is
I mean,
nice.
I'm aspire to do what you're doing here. And on that note, you know, my dream is to rewild land in Wales, because just like this patch of land was used and abused for so long, many of the farms in my vicinity are the same. And the first thing I thought to do is we'll just leave it. You know, we'll see what happens, like you mentioned. But I never thought about planting native nut trees on my land. I thought I'd have a couple of cob nut trees, because I eat a lot of nuts and I don't want to be buying cashew nuts all my life. I don't know where they grow. They're not grown in Wales, that's for
Definitely
certain.
not. No, that's a tropical plant.
But seeing this here is just opened up my mind of the possibilities that, you know, one field on this land that I end up rewilding can actually offer. So I'm so grateful to see what you're doing here. Can you just tell me something more about it?
Absolutely. So this is, well, let me just take one broad step back. Our main focus here, outside of the storytelling and the soil health and the pollinator support, is a perennial staple crop. We want to farm a food source for communities. We don't want to farm strawberries. We don't want to farm tomatoes. Nothing against people that specialize in those spaces, but you can't feed a community off of that. There's not enough nutrient density to be able to raise children, to be able to keep people healthy, to give the calorie support you need to actually sustain a group. So I fell in love with the story of the American chestnut. There is a food forest that is maybe 45 minutes east of here. A man named John Hershey planted this amazing, amazing food forest that's still there today, dropping nuts like crazy every single year. And that really got me hooked on this idea that this can be the solution that we're looking for. How do we stop using fertilizer? How do we stop tilling up the land every single year? How do we grow food but also support the natural environment? How do we bring back native trees? You know, we think that of all of those different problems that we talked about, trees could be an answer for all of them.
Yeah.
Specifically this chestnut tree, this is a tree that at one point in the United States was the #1 tree on the East Coast. In the Appalachian region, they would say the chestnuts are good from the crib to the coffin and everything in between, because it's a rot resistant wood that they would make cribs and coffins out of. it also produces a very carb-based nut that can serve as a meat, flour, and milk substitute. So indigenous communities, settler communities, this was their security. This is what they did to keep their family safe and fed. Corn that you see growing all around here, that doesn't even become food. Most of the time it gets sold to an ethanol co-op.
I did not know that. That is
it's either animal fodder or it ends up being a gasoline in some ways, right? Or high fructose. So we are really focused on taking what was, this right here was 10 acres of corn soy rotation, and turning it back into the natural environment that it could be. So all the clover and the rye that you see were hand seeded by us. We
just to add more abundance.
Add some covering to the soil so it didn't dry out too much. Obviously support nitrogen as well.
Can I ask you one question?
Yeah, of course.
This is all chestnuts, right? There's a variety of chestnuts.
This is about 800 trees in here.
Yeah.
700 of them are chestnuts.
Right.
There's maybe 10 different types of genetics in this field of chestnuts specifically. We also have planted a yellow bud hickory, which is another hickory type variety that thrives in wetlands. So our low point down there, we have a few rows of hickory. And then in the middle of this field, we have what we call our biodiversity band. So those are native trees that could support this environment in a way like tulip poplars, 9-bark, serviceberry, red osier dogwoods. So we worked with a company called Propagate on this. They have a software where you can kind of plan out orchards.
Right.
So as you can see, it's going to be as wild as possible, but it's almost planted in a perfectly geometric space.
Because looking at it here, it almost looks like a bit of a monocrop, but then you understand then there's so much more variety amongst these trees.
So we these are 3-year-old trees now. We have another 4 years before they start bearing a crop.
4 years, wow.
In the spring season, we actually have about 10,000 perennial flower bulbs in these hedgerows. So we end up doing a pick your own flower operation in the springtime here. People can come in, bring their kids, bring their dogs, cut flowers, and then we mow all of that down before the trees start leafing out as well. Yeah. The other thing about chestnuts that I really like, they're called what they say a late bloomer. So this is a tree that doesn't really start leafing out until May, way past the frost date. So what you struggle with in apples and other stone fruit is they'll start bulbing, they'll start budding rather, and we'll get a real bad cold flash and you'll lose your whole crop for the whole year. These chestnuts really don't come out until the threat of that frost is gone. So it gives us a much more secure crop year over year because we're not dealing with these April cold fronts that could decimate a whole growing season. So, you know, I like to think of myself as a little bit of a late bloomer, specifically in the ag space.
I was called that when I was a kid.
I feel, so I mean, you can relate to the chestnuts too. So let's take a look inside. I'll show you one of them. So as I said, a bunch of different genetics in here. But you can see this is a Japanese-American hybrid tree itself right here, 2 years old. What we essentially did was we would till strips down the row, so we're not releasing all of the carbon that we sequestered. And we essentially planted whips or bare root trees in here that we put in the ground. We surround with this perforated tube, and then we douse it with mulch to be able to fertilize and keep the soil as moist as possible.
So did you put any manure or compost in that?
We put a bone meal when we planted it, and then every year we're putting a sunchoke extract in this field as a stimulant. So it's really important for us to only use organic and natural fertilizers if we're going to. Sunchoke extract, a mycorrhizal fungi that we put into the ground as well, and then neem oil to suppress us from some of the Japanese beetles that inevitably you can see some of the holes coming in here. But you know, this is a beautiful 3-year-old tree.
And how tall will these eventually get?
This is gonna get 100 feet tall.
Wow.
Yeah, we planted these 15-foot spacing. A mature chestnut will need 30 feet. So we planted this at a high density space because at year 5 we'll actually dig up half of these trees and sell them to other people, right?
Cool.
So this idea of like planting more than you need and then giving them away to the community is it's almost a vector for us to be able to pollinate wider swaths of land. I don't think anybody's going to be putting 700 chestnut trees in their backyard, but you can imagine how many people come to me and say, I want 3, you know.
So this is a nursery as well.
And you can't find 5-year-old chestnuts, right? Hard enough to find a mature one. So.
And them close together, are they competing for light, trying to grow faster
Not
eventually?
now.
Not now, obviously,
Eventually
but when they get a
will,
bit taller.
of course, yeah. So that's when we get to year 5, we'll probably dig them up to give almost double the spacing that everybody gets.
But is that Japanese method of growing or growing forest where you plant shrubs and trees really close together and they're all competing for light and they grow taller? Something that I may try and do eventually. But this is, you know, I love how you're thinking it in such a deep analytical way, in a sense that, you know, it's almost genius to think, well, you know, we can sell some of the crop, it's a nursery, it's going to feed, it's bringing back nature to the land. I just can't wait to see this place in 30 years time when I come back, and you know, who knows what kind of habitat this will then be. Like, what would there even be grass there? Will this be like beautiful forest?
That's a great point. So at year 5 we will bring sheep in here.
Wow,
so we'll run sheep into these rows once the trees are tall enough.
Nice.
You know, that is my dream, right? This concept of silvopasture, animal grazing, tree planting together as one, I think is like a perfect unlock. I don't want to be mowing this field either, right? So eventually I'm going to have to bring a grazing animal in here to be able to keep the grasses down. We feel like sheep is going to be a perfect option for that. So this is still probably stage 1 of a 3-stage 15-year cycle. But I think a lot about my kids when I'm out here, you know? It's like I have a 4-year-old child right now, and it's like I almost can't wait to see what he's like as a teenager, right? Or as a 25-year-old, or his first job, or his first girlfriend. And so I almost have to slow myself down, right? And that's kind of how I feel here. I come in this, I'm like, I can't wait for 30 years from now. And then I'm like, Sam, just stop, breathe, and appreciate the 3-year-old trees as they are now, because you're never gonna see them like this again, right? Every single year they're gonna look a little bit different, so.
Wow, nature's a good teacher.
Isn't that the truth? So this is a tulip poplar tree.
Tulip poplar, I've not heard of that
One of the tallest trees in the eastern United States. Now this one's growing out, but I'll show you some of the tulip poplars in our forest are just absolutely enormous. So like this is a perfect example of this ash borer.
Yeah.
So you can see the marks that this ash borer makes.
Oyster mushrooms.
Oh yeah, I mean, we got mushrooms all over the place.
There's oyster mushrooms growing here.
So you can see this, you know, this borer almost makes like this beautiful pattern out of the wood.
Is that something that is just like arrived here? You know, on boats maybe? And
it came through, it came through rocks that were delivered here, and now, these ash trees are dying in mass. What
was it that drew you to this plot of land in particular? Why this place? Did you feel something when you got here originally?
I had looked at maybe 60 farms.
Really?
You know, first and foremost, I was looking for the right soil type.
Yeah. So did you come on your visits with a little shovel? And
I didn't know. There's survey maps. So I was looking, and I knew that this was a specific type of soil. It's called a Clarksburg silt loam, really valuable glacier deposit 10,000 years ago.
Wow.
So that is really why I started looking in this county specifically. Every single old homestead farm that you find, the ceilings are this high, got to replace the roof, staircase is this narrow, got to do a new plumbing system, etc. So it was really nice to find a homestead of that size that we could work with. But you know, sometimes I like to say, people don't have ideas, ideas have people. And when I got here, it was like so abundantly clear that this was the place that I needed to start working. So part of it was planning, but a majority of it was a feeling when I got here that this is what I was meant to be doing for the next 10 years.
Wow. And did you assess the soil before you came and visited the property?
I did, yeah. I looked at the soil before I came and visited. I didn't take soil samples because I didn't really need them. You know, I'm looking at these 200-year-old nut trees right in front of us, so I know a perennial staple crop is going to grow well here. So, you know, you almost follow history in some ways versus trying to use any advanced science of soil testing, which again gives you some information, but as you know, things grow in all different types of environments. And sometimes it is dependent on the individual plant and tree. It's not a species, it's not the environment, and it's not the year, right? It could always be something new. So I try not to rely too much on the analytics when I'm out here, because you almost have to go off of the feeling, what you're touching, what you're seeing, and what you're experiencing.
Because that's the one thing that lets me down. I think I'm less more on the analytical side. I go up more off the feeling, but I'm really grateful to know that it was a feeling for you as well as the initial research. And there is something magical about being here. There's something in the air here. I know you have a spring over there, and this must be sacred land, you know, for people that walk these lands before us. And
absolutely, and we have clues of that everywhere. Arrowheads we're finding, sassafras trees being planted all over. This has been sacred land for thousands of years. So, you know, we feel really lucky to be able to work on it, and just trying not to screw it up in some ways.
No, you're doing an incredible job. You've mentioned a few times that nowadays, you know, in the modern world, we're chasing money, we're chasing materialistic things, and you mentioned that was, you know, part of your life when you were in the mix of the modern ways. Has growing, has being connected, reassess your whole thinking on what's important? I'm sure I know the answer to that, but what about like materialism and all that stuff, the things that we're meant to be chasing nowadays, it seems?
Well, you know, I do think that there's a push for people in our generation realizing that all that glitters isn't gold, you know? And this idea of like, what is it all for, is something that I didn't want to get to a point where my back was against the wall and that decision was forced upon me. So, yeah, I mean, I wear the same overalls every single day. And value to me is growth and planting trees and seeing things materialize and building things, working with my hands. Those currencies feel so much more tangible and important to me. I felt a lot of urgency to do that before I had kids. I did not want to pass this feeling of achievement being the only barometer for success to my children. I wanted them to feel like they could do things that they loved, and that they could do things that mattered beyond this construct of trading green pieces of paper with each other for things that really mattered, you know? And so yeah, to answer your question, it has reframed my value system a lot. I thought that I had a new value system when I came out here, but this has been such a teacher to really, for me to understand exactly how much more I have to learn.
Definitely. It's humbling. It is humbling, because the seasons will come one day, or the weather will change and, you know, throw you off.
And mistakes happen.
Yeah, they do.
You know?
Happen.
So to your earlier point, like, if you go off of the analytics, you're gonna quit. You have to do it for the love of the game. You have to do it because this is what your passion is, and this is what you believe in.
So true.
So that's really like, that's a driving force. It's like, I would have quit 1,000 times by now if it was just a business plan. Right? Because things change.
So many variables.
So this is our second field. Down here we have hazelnuts, hickory, sour cherries, and pawpaw. Pawpaw is like a pineapple banana hybrid fruit that is getting a lot of steam in Pennsylvania specifically. We make a cider out of that.
Nice.
The top of this hill is what we call our community garden.
This is
so
beautiful.
This is 12 rows of traditional crops here. Everything around it is edible. So behind you, you can see lime leaf, you know, another perennial salad mix that we're trying to bring out, white mulberry, raspberry leaf, and sassafras. And then on this far side, which I'll take you through, is what we call our forest garden. So that is a plantation of high density trees that are meant to mimic a natural forest environment. So you referenced, you know, the Japanese trials that are happening now where they're planting, you know, these 100 square foot beds, super high density. We're not at that type of level, but we probably have 60 different types of crops in there. And that's maybe a 15-year design process, right? So we're in year 3 of that. But in 15 years, that's going to look like this, except for everything's going to be edible.
It's amazing to see. You've done it so quick, and you have an amazing team here. It's so inspiring for me. This to me, just on the earlier point, is richness. Just this small, you know, community garden. This is wealth to me, being able to come out, feed yourself, feed the community, feed your family members, utilize the medicinal herbs and plants that are growing in between, and actually just the act of having your hands in the soil, your feet on the ground, and being intertwined with the nature, and the cycles of it is made me feel rich and whole, and I can see that in you, and I feel like I've only known you less than a day now, and I feel like we have a connection. I think it's just through our mutual understanding and appreciation of all things natural and growing.
Agree. You know, that's like a common language
yes.
That people are speaking now, and it was also important for us to build a growing space that didn't require raised beds.
Yes.
So a lot of people come out, they see our kitchen garden, they're like, I could never do that, right? So to be able to
So
say,
true.
hey, this is a 30-foot strip that we dig up, we did a hugelkultur in this, we're dumping logs in, we're filling it with topsoil. We planted buckwheat the first year to give us some more organic matter, and now it's like, you know, we're kind of letting nature do its thing. So everything from yarrow, sunchoke, sweet potato, a Three Sisters corn, bean, squash installation, lavender, you know, everything that you could think we're growing in here. And we call it our community garden because this is where we let community members come and work and volunteer if they want to, which is another part to the story, right? They want to get their hands dirty.
Yeah, and I noticed that many of the properties as I was driving in here, and actually in comparison to the UK, most houses out of the city have an adequate like front yard or garden, and most of them are just highly manicured lawns, just like at home whenever there's a garden with a house. But this is a way in which you can just turn that lawn into a farm.
Of course.
And this is way more achievable, I think, than knocking up some raised beds, I guess.
And it can be aesthetically pleasing too. You know, a lot of people think that you start digging up your lawn and people are going to complain.
I know.
But anybody that does it actually finds it's the exact opposite. People come by and they're like, this is so beautiful. How can I do it myself? So we still have more work to do in this space, but we're really proud of it, and being able to grow, again, more food for the community, but also more space for people to work with their own hands. You know, that's something that I cherish a lot.
Yeah, it's all about getting the community down and teaching the next generation. I've learned, because in school growing up, we didn't have any lessons on how to grow food, even how to cook food, and that's where that missing link is, I guess.
Same.
It's such a shame.
I mean, even with my dad being an agricultural rep, I didn't have any agriculture experience.
Really?
You know, I'm watching Charles Dowding on YouTube just like everybody else.
Oh, they are so cute.
It's amazing to see animals grazing in here again. We have what we call a silvopasture in here. So we have tulip poplars, redbuds, and oaks. These trees are set up to almost act as sundials of shade for these animals over time. So not only will they be getting the shade from these full-grown trees, but the shade will actually move throughout the day evenly to allow an even grazing pattern versus a shed like that, which really only gives you shade from one angle every single time.
Why was it alpacas that you
know, I want to run sheep in these fields, and I don't have time to train a livestock guardian. So I got a piece of advice from a heritage farmer that said if you get 2 alpacas, they're extremely smart and they can actually herd your sheep for you. So I got 2 alpaca because I wanted to train them as herders, and then I fell in love with them. They're like such docile, smart animals.
So cute.
So now I'm just collecting alpaca like crazy. And they act as a really cute mascot.
Can you go
for
in
the
there?
farm. Yeah.
Oh, so this was landfill when you took over, and now it's home
You
to
can
these
see these
beautiful
2
lambs.
brown spots where there were trash piles.
Oh wow.
So yeah, now it's home to these alpaca.
Oh, and there's a llama somewhere, right?
This is Sheila Ray. She's a llama.
Hello guys.
Let me get you some grain so they come up to you.
They are so cute. I'm gonna have to get myself some alpacas.
Come here, girl. Come over here, girl.
Hello.
Come on. Hey, Sheila. What's up, girl? Hey, okay, I know.
I'm not that confident yet.
I know. Come here, try some. Oh yeah. Love you, girl.
From Tech Bro.
And look at me now.
Look at him now.
No bro in my life anymore.
No.
Just my girls here.
Yeah. They're beautiful creatures.
Beautiful creatures, very, very smart animals. Their wool is extremely expensive. And as I said, their manure is maybe the most valuable thing that they offer us.
Wow.
In the spring, you can find all these sassafras shoots on the ground coming from these big sassafras trees.
So this is a sassafras tree, and
This is
you
a
were telling
sassafras
me
tree.
before we met the importance of this tree to the native people in
Deeply
this area.
important to tree to Native Americans,
Yeah.
deeply important to tree to settlers. When I bring local folks around here, they chew on these sassafras leaves and they're like, it reminds me of my childhood.
I could do that now?
Yeah, of course,
So
yeah.
just one of these leaves.
Yeah, feel free to grab one.
And so this is what's the main ingredient in root beer?
The
traditionally?
roots. So the
roots are,
sassafras roots are the main ingredient in root beer. You essentially dig those roots up and mix it with a ginger brug, and we have some root beer you guys can try. These leaves are some of the most nutritious perennial leaves that you could find.
Really?
The challenge is it's almost impossible to grow these things.
Really?
So we feel really lucky that we have all of this wild sassafras. And you know, essentially what we do is we harvest these baby leaves off the shoots here that are much more tasty. We'll dig up the root system right
Yes.
here, and we'll use that for root beer as well.
Oh, wow. And this was medicine too, right?
Yeah, for Native Americans. So
Yeah.
what you would essentially, if you had any historian out here, they would point to where sassafras trees are to be where Native American ceremonies were being run at
Wow.
one point in time. So you mentioned this idea of being sacred land. It's like,
Yeah.
it's kind of all around us.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost overwhelming the amount of dynamics that are being thrown at you when you walk around,
Yeah.
because it does feel like purposeful.
Yeah.
You know, we call them wild sassafras. That was planted by somebody at some point in time.
Yeah.
So back in here, you could that's where, you know, we have wine caps, shiitakes.
Oh, could we see a little bit of
Yeah,
that?
yeah. Let's walk up and we'll walk back.
Because mushrooms, we got to see mushrooms. Oh man, look, the temperature's just changed.
I know.
Looking up at the canopy there is it's mad. There's something
And this
magical
is another
about
idea
woodlands.
of security, you know,
Yeah.
like people aren't meant to be baking on asphalt their whole
No.
life. So to have a space like this where you can really control the temperature in a way, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, a gift from God.
Oh my word!
I mean, they're everywhere. So
These wine caps.
these are not wine caps. We'll see wine caps in a second. I don't know what type of mushroom these are.
Well, I'm not going to eat them just in case.
These are wine caps.
Oh, wine caps.
Yeah,
Yes.
these are wine caps.
Wow.
You walk down this trail and you just, you know, you
Oh
can't
my
really miss. You can't really miss.
Guys, these mushrooms.
Yeah.
I really need to do a dinner here. This would be incredible, picking these wine caps, cooking them
Yeah.
over fire.
Yeah. You know, I feel really lucky being on this space, not only for the history that we mentioned, but it's like 5 ecosystems
Yes.
crammed into one farm. You
Yeah.
know, you have a protected wetland, you have a homestead, you have a pasture where we're, you know, putting trees, you have these deep woodlands where we're at.
It's just so inspiring to be here with you and hearing you talk, and I know the audience watching will be amazed by your story, and
Thanks, man.
hopefully they can have the opportunity to visit you and see it for themselves in person, because I think it's these kinds of projects, and there's, you know, they're few and far between, because it's a big gamble that you've taken to leave your career to come and do this, but it's these kinds of projects that will literally change the world, you know. And
People need more dreamers,
Yeah.
you know, like people need to see somebody dream and execute,
Yeah,
right? And I think we see this project as a lighthouse example
yeah.
that people can come and experience for themselves and leave with the confidence that they could probably do this too. So we have a yoga deck here. We're doing a lot of like conversations, meditations here. These are all new shiitake installations.
Nice.
So we just inoculated these red oak logs.
Nice.
So in November, these will probably be ready to start shooting
Nice.
out.
So that's an amazing thing. You know, you've got a fallen oak tree that's just falling. You fresh logs, you can just inoculate and have, you know, for the next 7-10 years, you've got shiitakes blooming.
This is our wildflower meadow. So we're continuing to work on this. The 2 predominant species in here are milkweed and Indian hemp.
Right.
So we seeded those maybe 2 years ago.
Why Indian hemp?
So Indian hemp is a milkweed variety. It supports the monarch butterfly, just like common milkweed would. You can tell the difference because it has a little bit more of a red stem than milkweed would.
Okay.
Very similar type of plant, right? So what you'll essentially get is all the medicinal milkweed out of it, but you have a very fibrous plant that Native Americans would use almost as a hemp alternative.
Yeah.
They'd be able to make clothes out of this,
Yeah,
baskets out of this, you name it. So we seeded the milkweed, the Indian hemp was here. Somebody seeded it at one point in time, so.
And when does this flower?
Probably July week 3.
So this is I need to book my wedding
Oh
date
yeah,
for,
but you can
for
already
July.
see some of the heads coming out, you know.
We'll have the dinner in the middle of this.
Oh yeah, for sure. And let's walk down here and then we'll hit the ruins on the way
Wow,
back.
ruins. Wow. I love that you you cut curves and walkways through in non-straight lines.
Yeah, well, you know, I wanted people to be able to meander
Yeah.
through it, and for me, it was like, you know, this is just gonna take us 15 years to get it to the point that we want. So every year we're cutting more beds out, you know, putting different types of plants in here to be able to expand the diversity,
Right.
getting different types of trees in here to be able to add a little bit more of a flair to it. So this is some of my most favorite cherished space on the
It's
property.
beautiful.
Always trying to put out more yarrow.
I
wherever
love it's
can.
my favorite herb.
Yeah,
It
me
seems like
too.
it's yours as well.
Me too. I mean, it's so resilient. It's
Yeah.
deer resistant, which is the other big thing. Like, the deer will just come and feast on anything in here that
Yeah.
they like. So,
And good when you cut yourself. Nature's plaster. There's so much more variety here. Plants I've never even seen before all around.
yeah, I mean, I think Pennsylvania slept on in a lot of ways in
Yeah.
that sense, especially this area. You know, I wouldn't say all of Pennsylvania,
Right.
but this area specifically is a space that has been cultivated for thousands of years and then protected.
Right.
Right? So they're not building things anywhere around here. There's no local convenience store. There's no electronics store. There's no big parking lot getting put next door. And again, you have people who have been taking care of this land for so long that the diversity is almost built in. This is a vernal pool. I like walking by. We'll probably get a bunch of frogs. Yep, there you go. This vernal pool is a function of swaling all the way up
wow.
at the community garden. You know,
Really?
the water comes off, we divert it away from the garden, we put it into little mini rock drains, and they all coming down underneath the pipe here and into this space.
way.
So this wasn't here when we got here,
Wow.
right? So the idea of we're not running drip irrigation anywhere. How do you hold water, use it when you need it, and slow the water down so it seeps back into the soil base? That comes from being able to move it around organically and then hold it in vernal pools like this. It's not wet all the time. It dries up in the summer, of course, but you can see the amount of plant and animal diversity that it's supporting right now. Small amphibians bring small birds bring big birds, and then the next thing you know, you're rebuilding the ecosystem.
Yeah. When you find some bears around here, then you know you sorted it out.
And finally, a tiger. We got to the top of the food chain.
Wow, look at this ruin.
Yeah. So this is dated back to the 1600s. This is, 400-year-old homestead that when I got it, it was all overgrown. I didn't even see it when I bought the place. I was just
No
exploring one day and I was like, what is that? So I'll take you around back. You can see it from the inside. So this is maybe one of the most sacred spaces on the property. These corners were already here and we rebuilt these wings
Oh, you
to give
did?
it more stability.
Oh, nice.
All of this is a new lime plastering. So we excavated it down probably from like here down to find the ground floor,
Oh,
and
you
then we
did?
put loose rock on here. You can see these notches on the side from where the water was flowing in back in the day. And even now you can see nature like starting to reclaim it. But
that's, I guess, a sign of the fact that this is a natural building.
exactly.
Who knows what the modern homes would look like in 400 years' time? Will the plants even want to grow in that environment? They probably would, actually, because they are resilient, but
But I mean, the fact that you have these corners that were standing for 400 years, it's just insane to think about.
It is.
The amount of attention to detail that these builders were putting in, not to mention that they're hand digging all these rocks and bringing them from the fields over to here and then stacking them. You can see a little window there from 400 years ago, you know, so that's
the floor
probably
level would have been way
floor
lower
level
than this.
would have been here. This is the basement that we're sitting in,
basement, right.
So I love being out here, not only because you get the most amazing sunlight and shade depending on the time of the day. I like just sitting here and just listening to the sounds of the vernal pool right here. You know, in the summertime, you hear the cicadas and the frogs and the birds. I had a plan to dig this up, and I was gonna put my geothermal greenhouse in here. I was gonna 3D print a glass casing and put it on top like an Apple store. But then when I was done, it was like, it's perfect just the way that it is, you know?
I can see
Don't
that
need
vision
to touch
there.
it
I
once.
can see that.
So I really love this space, and maybe some of the quietest and most meditative spaces that we have on the property. I envision, you know, like a little 3-piece string band here, people eating here, you and Tegan, you know, having your rehearsal dinner or something.
I think this is a good place to
do our
end the
talk.
tour.
Yeah.
And just say thank you so much.
Of course, man.
Thank you so much for showing us around this magical place, but thank you for doing what you're doing to inspire, but to heal the area, heal the planet, because it's like you say, you're just a beacon, and other people will follow. And certainly, I know now I can do it. It's possible for me to do something along the lines after having seen what you've done here, and it's just magical. So thank you.
Thank you. It means a lot that you're here. It's an honor to be able to show you around.
That was going to get really awkward. No, thank you.
Man, the best. The best.
My 3-night stay at Bloom Farm is something I'll remember for many years to come. And the best part, I can book and come back anytime, and so can you. I'll pop a link beneath this video so you can inquire about your own stay. From the moment we arrived, the warmth and kindness from Sam and his team was just incredible. Every single person we met made us feel completely at home. One thing I've realized on my journey towards self-sufficiency is that you cannot do it alone, and community is everything. That's how it used to be. I'm sure, especially here at Bloom Farm, people would have been coming together to help one another, to barter and trade, to share produce, advice, mill flour, and engage. And that's exactly what Sam is building at Bloom Farm, a modern version of that sense of community. It truly feels like you're being invited into a family. The pace of life was completely different from the one I just left behind in New York. Evenings were spent around the table with meals prepared by Chef Chris, most of it grown right there on the land and cooked slowly over fire to perfection. It was magical. The few days gave me a chance to slow down, to connect with people, to talk without the noise of phones or technology, just good food, good people, and a deep appreciation for everything Bloom Farm represents. I just want to say a huge thank you to Cora and Jamie for taking us along, and to Sam and everyone at the farm for such an unforgettable experience. It was truly something special. Sam, thank you so much for inspiring me and so many others. You've shown that it's still possible to create something beautiful that in a world often pushes beauty away.